One of California's most beautiful and technically challenging backcountry roads started out as a mining road in the 1860s. This road was once maintained to a level that would allow wagon loads and later truckloads of ore to travel out of the wilderness. Some portions of it even once had pavement.
Tie rod broke.
Today, this is one of the most difficult roads in the state, with many different obstacles both named and unnamed. The most notable are 6 hills that are just simply called the Winch Hills.
Go. There you go. Hard driver.
The road is in the amazingly scenic Tahoe National Forest. There are water crossings, granite mountains, and lots of photo opportunities. The area is rich in gold mining history, and the road ends at the site of an 1860s ghost town called Summit City. Welcome to 4x4 Places with a Jeep named Mr. Green, and this is Fordyce Creek. Fordyce Creek is located about 24 miles west of Truckee, California, off of Interstate 80. To get to the Trailhead, exit I-80 at Eagle Lakes Road and go north. Turn right just past the Indian Springs Campground onto a dirt road that leads to the OHV staging area. Besides Fordyce Creek, the trails for Signal Peak and Pierce Meadow can also be accessed from the same staging area. It is 11.5 miles from the staging area to the campground at Meadow Lake. This run can be made in one long day, but go prepared to stay overnight in case there are any problems. My personal preference is to do this trail in 2 days. There are many beautiful campsites along the way. There's not a sign at the staging area to mark the beginning of the trail. The road you need to take leaves the area in a northwest direction, following the power lines. Starting out, the road is relatively easy for any high-clearance four-wheel drive vehicle. After a half a mile, you reach a group of signs and a fork in the road. To the left, the road goes to Pierce Meadow. To the right is the road that we will tour. The road continues to be relatively easy until 1.5 miles from the staging area. Here you reach Driveline Hill. Driveline Hill has a bypass, but if you plan to run all of Fordyce Creek, why bother? If you can't make it up this hill, you should really consider turning back. The rest of the trail has multiple areas just as difficult or more so, and most of them do not have a bypass. A 1/4 mile from Driveline Hill, you will reach the turn for Eagle Lakes. Stay to the right for Fordyce Creek.
Alright, made it to Sunrise Hill.
At the top of Sunrise Hill, pathfinding can be difficult in places. Look for tracks from previous vehicles. The downhill run is filled with large rocks that make the journey slow and chunky. Sunrise Hill ends at the first water crossing of Fordyce Creek. This crossing is usually the deepest. The bottom is firm, but large rocks are scattered randomly. At the time of this crossing, the water flow was about 300 cubic feet per second. You should check dreamflows.com for the water flow levels before you go.
That's definitely left line, huh?
The power company controls the flow of the water based on the power needs at the dam at Lake Spalding. On this trail, there are 3 crossings of the creek, and it could be possible to get trapped between crossings if the power company increases the water flow after you have made any one of these crossings. To not have to worry about the water flow, I recommend joining the Sierra Trek event hosted by Cal 4-Wheel each year in August. The power company drops the water flow specifically for the event.
Oh, look at the water pouring out. Oh my God.
The first Winch Hill is reached at 5 miles from the staging area. This is actually the newest addition to the trail. This section of the road was added to avoid a wetlands area. And since the other 5 Winch Hills were well established, this one was dubbed Winch Hill 1/2. After Winch Hill 1/2, the trail pretty much becomes a constant series of challenges.
Hello, Winch Hill 1.
The next named obstacle is Winch Hill 1. It is sort of the king of the Winch Hills, but mostly because of the impressive approach, and that it sets the bar for what is to be expected on the other Winch Hills. The climb starts out as a wide boulder field and narrows to a large V-notch of rock at the top.
There he goes.
This hill is only a 1/10 of a mile long, but a group of rigs could easily spend a good amount of time here.
Now turn hard pass. Right there. Hard pass.
There are no man-made winch points on any part of this trail, so getting a rig to the top is needed if you want a solid winch point. Layovers and rollovers are possible on this hill, so luckily there is a bypass if you prefer a safer option. The second water crossing is less than a half mile from Winch Hill 1. This is a rougher crossing than the first one, and the locals say that this one can be as deep as the first, depending on the water flow level. Winch Hill number 2 has a long rocky approach, but the ledge at the top is what everyone refers to as the Winch Hill. It can be scaled directly if you're willing to try.
That's just slippery as shit.
The ledge is 4 to 8 feet tall depending on your approach. The rock is fairly smooth and tough to get traction. There is a different line to the right side that can still be tricky if you get too close to the edge.
Come on up. Stay passenger.
There is no bypass, and rollovers are possible on any line, so please use caution.
You're not getting any traction.
Once you are past the third crossing, water flow will not be a factor anymore, unless you plan to use the escape trail at Committee Crossing. The obstacle called the Squeeze has multiple bypasses, but most are just as challenging. We chose to take on the original line. Just before the Squeeze, there's an optional crossing called the Committee Crossing. This can be used as an escape trail. Also, there are the remnants of the Osaville mine camp. In 1865, there was a tin stamp mill here to process ore. Lana's Hill is only about a 1/10 of a mile long, but it can be tricky in places. But all of this trail can be tricky. Just because a part of the trail isn't named doesn't mean that you won't have to work to get your way through.
Yeah, that's crazy. Obstacle 1, yeah. Obstacle 2, 3, and a little dirt bypass. Who knew?
Winch Hill 3 has several options. None of them, including the bypass, are intended for the timid.
All right, on to Winch Hill 4. Let's go. All right.
The Winch Hills start coming faster now. Winch Hill 4 is only about a half a mile further on. Winch Hill 5 has options, but none of them reduce any of the difficulty that has already been faced. The options only increase the difficulty and the fun.
You need anything, Kurt?
I'm having a hard time seeing where I'm going.
You look good there. Maybe a little.
Like I say, that's not good.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, that's a good line. Yeah.
This was one of my favorite winch hills this time through. The multitude of choices and lines made it an exciting puzzle to figure out.
Come here. Come. Come here.
Come on, Josh, come on.
Officially, Winch Hill 5 is the end of Fordyce Creek Trail, but the road continues on to Meadow Lake, where the mining town of Summit City once sat on its shores. By 1869, only 80 people remained because the gold was too costly to separate from the ore. The cemetery is all that remains today. So what are your favorite 4x4 places? Please leave a comment and let me know. If you enjoyed this tour, please subscribe.